Hi kindergartners, welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Tuesday, February 2nd. How are you doing? I hope you had a good night last night. Let's check in with our feelings. Let's look at our zones chart. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling in the blue zone? Or you're sad and tired? Or are you in the green zone when you feel happy and ready to go? Are you in the yellow zone where maybe you're feeling distracted or worried or anxious? Or are you in the red zone where you're not happy and you are mad? Think about what you can do to make sure that you're in the green zone today. Mabel, I'm feeling in the green zone. I'm actually really excited for our lesson today. If you notice, I've got these yellow balls here and some straws, and I'm really excited for the start of our lesson today. And I'm also really happy because I remembered to get pictures of Oliver for you. So let's take a look at the pictures of Oliver. There he is. That's my son Oliver, and he will be 2 on the 21st of February. There's a picture of him at the park, a picture of him walking in his daddy's work boots. They're a little bit big for him. And a picture of him in his new hat that's just like his dad's hat. We love him very much. So when I talk about Oliver, that's who I'm talking about. All right, Mr. Kevin, we're going to come back to me. We're not going to do a True or False Tuesday today because today our lesson's a little bit longer. We're going to start by you're going to help me, using Play-Doh balls and straws to make some of our shapes. And we're going to see what shapes can we make with straight edges and corners, and what shapes can we not make with straight edges and corners. So I'm going to pull out a shape. And I forgot a couple shapes. Hang on, let me grab them. It's important that I have all the shapes I need. Okay, I got them. I'm going to pull out a shape and we're going to see if I can make it. Are you ready? Nope, I think forward is just fine because we'll see it right here. Okay, so I want to make a square. Do you think we're going to be able to make a square today? I think so. Squares have all the same. Actually, Mr. Kevin, yes, I think we should do up because holding the flat shapes up might be kind of difficult. If I use clay, I didn't have any clay at home. We only had Play-Doh. Let's see. Am I able to make a square? Now look. Oh, there we go. Did I make a square? I did. Look at that. They're similar. This square has 4 sides that are all the same length. They're parallel and they have 4 corners. So I was able to make a similar shape, a square. They're different in that this square is facing kind of sideways and this one's facing straight and this one's smaller and this one's bigger and this one is not blue and that one's blue. They're different, but they are similar. So that's a clue as to what we're going to be figuring out today. Now, what about this circle? Can I use the Play-Doh and the straws to make a circle? What do you think, kindergartners? How would I make the circle? They don't bend, they're hard. I can't. Circles are one curved edge or curved face. It's just a curve. And there's no sides, so I can't make a similar shape. What about a cone? Could I make a cone? Well, I could try. Let's see. But then the bottom isn't round and it's kind of I don't think I can do it with just straight sides because, oh, that's right, Mabel. A cone has a circle face and a curved face that comes to a point. And I can't make a curve with straight edges because, like with the circle, I can't do it. So I couldn't make that similar shape. Okay, what about a rectangle? Do you think, look at that, are there any curves on a rectangle? No, no curves on a rectangle. Okay, so I'm gonna make the top. Now I remembered that the top and the bottom have to be the same length and the sides have to be the same length. So I'm making sure I'm grabbing straws that have the same length. Okay. All right. Look at that. Did I make a similar shape, Mr. Kevin? I think I did. Ta-da!
Yes.
I have a rectangle. Now, if I put this one this way, it's still a rectangle. They're similar. They both have all the things rectangles have, but they're different. The size is different. The orientation, that means where they are, is different. Their color is different. But they both have opposite sides, the same length. And those, we call them parallel sides. And 4 corners and 4 straight sides. Oh, that's really great. Okay, what about a triangle? I wonder if I could make a triangle. If I can make a similar triangle to this triangle. Do you think we could do it, Mr. Kevin?
I think you can.
Okay, I'm going to use these ones. Now, I'm going to use, hang on, I have an idea. Oh, I don't know if my idea is going to work. Let's see. I'm going to get some scissors. And I'm going to cut this just a little bit different. Okay. Let's see if I can make this triangle work the way I want it to. Okay. I'm going to put my Play-Doh. This is something that you can do at home. If you have sticks or straws and some Play-Doh, you can for sure make triangles at home. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because I want my triangle to be similar, but I want it to be a little bit different. Oh, look at that. Did I make a similar shape, Mr. Kevin?
It's similar. It kind of reminds me of a flag.
Yeah, it does kind of look like that flag, and this kind of looks like that bus sign from yesterday. So what I did was I made a triangle. I have 3 straight sides that connect at corners, and all the sides are straight, and it's a closed shape, and it makes a triangle. Now, there's lots of different kinds of triangles. This one we call equilateral, but so I made a different one, but it still follows all the rules of triangles. So they're similar, but not the same. So guess what we're going to do today? Take a look at our learning target. Today we're learning to identify shapes that are alike. That means that they're similar, but not exactly the same. So let's take a look. What do you see? Let's look at the top left box. It's the red shapes. They're right here. We're going to look at just these ones. Which 2 shapes are alike? So just like I was making shapes that were similar, but not exactly the same, which 2 do you think are alike? Well, you see it, Mabel? What do you see? You see a square and a square. They're both squares, but one of them is turned differently. Those shapes are alike. Now let's look at these blue shapes. Which ones are alike? Yeah, that shape looks like a triangle with its head chopped off, doesn't it? But that's called a trapezoid. But do we have 2 triangles? It's kind of like what I just made with my sticks and Play-Doh. I see a triangle here. It has 3 sides that are connected and 3 corners, and the sides are straight. 3 straight sides connected at 3 corners, and the sides are straight. Look at that, 2 triangles. Now the yellow one's hard to see, so we're going to skip it because it's kind of hard to see on the screen. So we're going to move over here to this one, to the green. Do you see 2 shapes that are alike? Me too. What do you see, Pebble? You see 2 circles. I see them as well. This circle is one joined curve, and this circle is one joined curve. But this one is smaller than this one. Okay, let's look at the purple triangles. Now, these are all triangles. So which of these triangles are the most alike? Oh, the one on the right and the one on the left are very similar. You know what they did? Mr. Kevin, can you show down here for me? Here's what they did. They took the triangle, this is the one on the right, and that's the one on the left.
They flipped it.
They just flipped it. Boop. Still the same triangle, still similar. They just flipped it.
Wow.
So here are the 2 triangles that are alike. Are those the ones you thought of? Nice job. Okay. Let's look at the last one. We have a square, 4 straight sides, joined at 4 corners, all the sides the same. We have a triangle, 3 straight sides, joined at 3 corners, and on this type of triangle, all the sides are the same. And then we have a rectangle, which has 4 straight sides, joined at 4 corners, and opposite sides are the same length. So which ones are the most alike? I could go either way with this one, Mr. Kevin.
So could I.
I could argue that the square and the triangle were the most alike because their sides are the same length. But I could also argue that the square and the rectangle are the most alike because they both have 4 sides. So which one do you think it is at home, friends? I think I'm going to go with the 4 sides because I think having the same number of sides is the most important to be alike.
Mrs. Wally, I do have a question.
Yes, Mr.
So
Kevin.
on the top, on the right, you have triangles, and then what did you call the other one? A trapezoid?
Trapezoid.
A trapezoid, like a triangle with its head chopped off.
Yeah, but they can look really, really interesting. Trapezoids don't have to look symmetrical like that. They can also be kind of angled differently. Trapezoids are really interesting shapes, and you'll learn more about those in like 2nd and 3rd grade. They're really fun.
So my other question, Mrs. Wally, how do you trapezoid?
I don't know how to trap a zoid. I've never met a zoid, and so I don't know what they like to eat.
Cheese.
You're so funny, Mr. Kevin. Mr. Kevin's so funny. So today we were finding shapes that were alike, but not exactly the same. This one does not want to stay circled for me. Sorry, friends. All right, let's look at this one. Which 2 shapes are the most alike? And I will tell you, Mr. Kevin, when I was planning this lesson, I looked at this and I was like, oh my. Whew. You got to get really specific for this one. So friends, which one do you think are most alike?
It's a toughie.
It's a really tough one. So I think what we should do is we should go through and talk about the features of each shape and then decide which 2 shapes have the most features that are the same. Okay, so this rectangle has 4 corners right here. We've got 4 corners. We've got 4 straight sides, right? Opposite sides are the same length. But not all the sides are the same length. Then we've got the square. We have 4 corners. We have 4 straight sides. and all the sides are the same length. And then we have 4 corners, 4 straight sides, and the opposite sides are the same length again. So which one, friends, do you think are the most alike? If you said rectangle and rectangle, you were correct. Nice job, friends. So for your homework today, you're going to do page 279, 280. You're going to decide which shapes are the most alike. You're going to go through and look at the 3 and decide which 2 of the 3 are most alike, just like we just did. Today we learned to identify shapes that were alike. We were telling the attributes of the shape, and we were finding other shapes that were like it. Now, friends, if you'd like to send us something here at the TV classroom, Mr. Kevin's going to tell you how.
That's right, Mrs. Wally. Find your adult and have them help you make an email on the computer, and the address is tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Or you can send us a letter in the mail. Wouldn't that be fun?
Mm-hmm.
TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. And we're right next door to a giant trapezoid.
We are? I think that's fiction, Mr. Kevin.
Oh.
Friends, I would love to see pictures of shapes you're making. If you're using Play-Doh or maybe dirt and rocks outside when you're playing during your play to learn time, I would love to see shapes you're finding and creating. So make sure to send that into the TV classroom. Now, before you go, you need to get your materials for your time with Miss Oslin. You're going to be getting your pencil, your learning notebook, and your learning buddy. Okay? Have a great break. Take care of your needs, be responsible, and be ready when Miss Oslin comes back on the screen. And I will see you tomorrow, friends. Have a great day. Make sure to find shapes. Bye.
Good day, young aviators. Did you know that we live in an amazing state? Not only is Washington famous for its spectacular scenery, but did you know that Washington State is famous for making airplanes? So today, we will be using our arms' muscular strength to fly around Washington State and see how beautiful it is. All you have to do is put your arms out when the bald eagle takes off from her totem pole and keep them flapping until she makes it back to her totem pole safely. Now, your arms might get a little tired, but that's okay. That's how we build our muscular endurance. Don't stop flapping until you land. Have a great flight.
Hi kindergartners, welcome back from your break. I see that you have your materials gathered and you're ready to go. Go ahead and take your materials and put them off to the side. You don't need them yet, but you can go ahead and keep your learning buddy in your lap if they're going to help you focus today. Now let's remember, your job when we come together today and every day is to listen, share, read, and write. Strong listeners have their, say this with me, eyes watching, ears listening, voice quiet, and if it helps you, keep your body still. Sometimes, even when I'm showing active listening like this, you know what I was thinking about? My lunch. So, if you find yourself thinking about something else, you can remind yourself, be gentle with yourself. Say, focus, self, focus. Because today, we are learning that readers retell familiar tales by identifying and describing the characters, setting, and main events in sequence. Whew! That's a lot of big words. That's a lot of big words. What that means is, as a reader, you are going to tell a story that you have heard before by talking about the characters, the setting, and what we call the events. That's what happens. And you're going to tell what happens in order. Now, I want to teach you a fun little ditty that my friend Miss Mays helped me come up with when I was teaching this lesson using this book to kindergartners last year. And it goes like this. Get your hand up because there's 5 parts to a retell, which means you're telling the story again. And it goes like this. You ready? Character, setting, beginning, middle, end. And I touch each finger as I say it to remind myself, when I retell a story, I need to include all 5 of those. So practice saying that with me. Here we go. Character, setting, beginning, middle, end. The character is the who the story is about. The setting is the where and the when of the story taking place. And then the events go in order, beginning, middle, end. And we're going to practice that with a familiar tale today. Some of you might have heard this story, some of you might not have, and that's okay. We are going to read Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Give Give me a thumbs up if you've heard this story before. Lots of us, but I see some of us haven't. So how exciting that you get to hear a new story today. Now, this is a story that has been told over and over and over by many different authors. This version is retold and illustrated by James Marshall. And when a story is retold or rewritten, it means that the writer didn't make it up themselves. James Marshall did not make up the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Instead, the writer took that story that was already written and told many times, and they wrote it in a different way. They kind of added their own little flair to it. So, do you think that this story is realistic fiction, could happen in real life, or do you think that this story is fantasy, could not happen ever, totally made up? Look at the picture. What do you see? Mr. Kevin, do you see what I see in the background?
Yes, I do.
What are the bears doing? Yeah, they're riding bikes, and they have clothes on, and the bear in the middle has a hat. Not real. That could not happen. This story is fantasy.
Yeah, bears are usually bare, aren't they?
Bears are usually bare, meaning no clothing.
Right.
Yes, yes. Excellent play on words there, Mr. Kevin. Now, if you have heard the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, think about the characters, the setting, and what happens. What are the events? The beginning, the middle, and the end. If you have never heard this story before, make a prediction. What do you think this story could be about? Take some think time. Mabel, I remember the characters are Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I remember the setting. Oh, Goldilocks starts going through the woods, but then she ends up at the bear's house. And when she gets to the bear's house, you remember, she eats their porridge, sits in their chairs, sleeps in their beds. She breaks the chair. Remember that? And then doesn't she fall asleep in the middle? And then the bears come home and scare her away. That's how the story ends, I think. Now, we're going to read Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and we're going to think about character, setting, beginning, middle, end. And I have a copy of this document, Retelling a Story, to help me remember what I need to include when I retell or tell a story again. Now, this document is in your ELA packet, and you are going to use it for your independent work today, but don't get it out yet, because I want to model for you how to use it to retell a story as we read Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Are you ready? Let's get started. Once there was a little girl called Goldilocks. "What a sweet child," said someone new in town. "That's what you think," said the neighbor. One morning, Goldilocks' mother sent her to buy muffins in the next village. "You must promise not to take the shortcut through the forest," she said. "I've heard that bears live there." "I promise," said Goldilocks. But to tell the truth, Goldilocks was one of those naughty little girls who do exactly as they please. All right, so I've already read the first couple pages, and I'm looking at the illustrations, I'm looking at the pictures, and I know that Goldilocks the neighbor and Goldilocks' mom are the characters so far. That's who the story is about. But the main character, who the story is mostly about, is usually the first character introduced in the book. And I also know that Goldilocks is the main character because she's pictured on the cover and her name is right in the title, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It doesn't say Goldilocks and her mom and the neighbor. It just says Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Paying attention to the details in the illustrations also let me know that the setting is in Goldilocks' house at first, or like in her backyard. And then in this picture, her mom's on the phone. So I assume that they're in Goldilocks' house. And then on the next page, she's going through the forest. To help me think about the important events in the story, I follow the main character through the story and think about what they do or what happens with them. So Goldilocks' mother sends her to the village to get muffins and says, what does she say? Don't take the shortcut. But Goldilocks doesn't listen, and she goes into the forest. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, I think she's going to get in big trouble. Now, to help me keep track of character, setting, beginning, I'm going to, on my graphic organizer, show you how to document your thinking so that you can retell your story and remember all of the important parts. So this says retelling a story. Remember, this says who? The characters. So who do I need to draw? That's right, Goldilocks. So Goldilocks has a round face, she has bangs, hair like this, she has a bow. She's smiling. Now, I'm not going to include Mom or the neighbors because they're not main characters. So, what happens at the beginning? Goldilocks is going to the village to get muffins, and she takes the shortcut. So I'm actually going to draw that right here. In the picture on the right, Goldilocks is walking under an archway that says short cut. And she's kind of got a mischievous smile, like she knows she's doing something she shouldn't do. And I'm going to draw her pointing in there that she's going that way. All right. Oh, do we know where? Do we know the setting yet? Character, setting. Yeah, it's in the woods. So I'm going to draw some trees in the forest to help me remember. Okay, let's keep going. Meanwhile, in a clearing deeper inside the forest, in a charming house all their own, a family of brown bears was sitting down to breakfast. "Patooey!" cried big old Papa Bear. "This porridge is scalding." That means really, really hot. "This porridge is scalding. I've burned my tongue." "I'm dying," cried Baby Bear. "Now really," said Mama Bear, who was of medium size, "that's quite enough." "I know," said Papa Bear. "Why don't we go for a spin while the porridge is cooling?" "Excellent," said Mama Bear. So they got on their rusty old bicycle and off they went. Oh, we've just met some new characters. The 3 bears. So I can document that on my chart here. I can draw the 3 bears. And I need to make sure that I include the details that our author has given us. That Papa Bear is big. So I'm going to draw Papa Bear. Big. Now, I'm not going to add too much detail because I'm just sketching. I'm just getting my ideas out. Okay, Mama's medium-sized. There. And then there's Baby Bear, who's smaller. Okay, now, what's happening next in the story? Yeah, the bears are leaving their house to go ride their bike. I don't know how they're all fitting on that bike, but they're doing it. Okay, so we have...
They barely fit.
Oh, psh. Brilliant. Mrs. Wally, were you thinking the same thing, that they barely fit? Yeah. There we go. All right. Let's keep reading to see what happens next to our characters. A few minutes later, Goldilocks arrived at the bear's house. She walked right in without even bothering to knock. On the dining room table were 3 inviting bowls of porridge. "I don't mind if I do," said Goldilocks, helping herself to the biggest bowl. But the porridge in the biggest bowl was much too hot. "Tooey!" cried Goldilocks, and she spat it out. Next, she tasted the porridge in the medium-sized bowl, but that porridge was much too cold. Then Goldilocks tasted the porridge in the little bowl, and it was just right. Neither too hot nor too cold. In fact, she liked it so much that she gobbled it all up. Oh no. Okay, so we know that as readers, we follow our main character through the story. What is Goldilocks up to now? She's inside the bear's house. So that's the middle of our story. So I'm going to draw the table. Goldilocks, look at her, she's sitting there, she's got her feet kicked up. This is our chair.
Kind of rude.
Little bit rude, yeah. Yeah, she went into their house without even knocking. Not only rude, but not very safe either. I've got her legs there, and then, oh, we need our bowls of porridge. There we go. All right, what's happening next? Feeling full and satisfied, Goldilocks thought it would be great fun to have a look around. Right away, she noticed a lot of coarse brown fur everywhere. "They must have kitties," she said. In the parlor, that's like the living room, in the parlor there were 3 chairs. "I don't mind if I do," she said, climbing into the biggest one. But the biggest chair was much too hard, and she just couldn't get comfortable. Next, she sat in the medium-sized chair, and the chair was much too soft, and she thought she might never get out of it. Then Goldilocks sat in the little chair, and that was just right. Neither too hard nor too soft. In fact, she liked it so much that she rocked and rocked until the chair fell completely to pieces. I remembered that when I was thinking at the beginning about what I remembered about Goldilocks and the 3 bears. I remembered that part. Now, all that rocking left Goldilocks quite tuckered out. "I could take a little snooze," she said. So she went to look for a comfy place to nap. Upstairs were 3 beds. "I don't mind if I do," said Goldilocks, and she got into the biggest one. But the head of the biggest bed was much too high. Next, she tried the medium-sized bed, but the head of that bed was much too low. Then Goldilocks tried the little bed, and it was just right. Soon, she was all nice and cozy and sound asleep, She did not hear the bears come home. Oh, goodness. What has our character Goldilocks done now? She fell asleep. I'm going to have to add that to our chart. So I'm going to draw the bed. Draw Goldilocks laying down. Draw her eyes closed. And you know what? Sometimes when authors want you to know that the character is asleep, they draw Z's like that. Okay. Here comes trouble. The three bears were mighty hungry, but when they went in for breakfast, they could scarcely believe their eyes. That means they could hardly believe their eyes. They could scarcely believe their eyes. Somebody has been in my porridge, said Papa Bear. Somebody has been in my porridge, said Mama Bear. Somebody has been in my porridge, said Baby Bear, and eaten it all up. In the parlor, you'll remember that's the living room. In the parlor, the three bears were in for another little surprise. Somebody has been sitting in my chair, said Papa Bear. Somebody has been sitting in my chair, said Mama Bear. Somebody has been sitting in my chair, said Baby Bear, and broken it to smithereens. That means lots of little pieces. Broken it to smithereens. Now, do you think that this is important for us to include in our retell, that the bears have come home? I think so. I think we need to go back to our graphic organizer, and where Goldilocks is sleeping, maybe we'll draw a line and show that the bears are downstairs. That's an important detail. That we need to include in our retell. Okay. The three bears went upstairs on tiptoe, not knowing what they would discover. At first, everything seemed fine, but then Papa Bear lay down on his big brass bed. Somebody has been lying in my bed, he cried. And he was not amused. It means he was not happy. He was not amused. "Egads!" cried Mama Bear. "Somebody has been lying in my bed." "Look!" cried Baby Bear. "Somebody has been lying in my bed, and she's still there." "Now see here," roared Papa Bear. Goldilocks woke up with a start, and her eyes nearly popped out of her head. But before the bears could demand a proper explanation, Goldilocks was out of bed, out the window, and on her way home. "Who was that little girl?" asked Baby Bear. "I have no idea," said Mommy Bear, "but I hope we never see her again." And they never did. Now, character, setting, beginning, middle, end. The last box, we need to draw Goldilocks running away from the bear's house. I'm going to draw her hair out like this, like she's running, and draw her eyes really big. Draw her arms like they're pumping, and she is running. It's a really important detail. Now, you are going to retell your stories that you read. You're going to think about, do this with me, character, setting, beginning, middle, end. You're going to use this graphic organizer to retell your story, including all of those elements and details, just like I modeled with Goldilocks and the three bears. Now, before you start writing, make sure you share with someone around you your story. You tell them character, setting, beginning, middle, end. Because we're learning that readers retell familiar tales tales, that means tell stories again, by identifying and describing, which means say who they are and say what they're like, the characters, the setting, and the events in sequence. That's the beginning, middle, end. Think about that today, paying close attention as you read, and then write about it. Write about it and complete that retelling a story graphic organizer. Then you can send it to us here at TV Classroom. Mr. Kevin, how can they send us their retelling of a story?
We want all of our kindergarten friends, Mrs. Oslin, to send us something. So find your adult and have them help you. Send us an email of your drawings or your story retelling to tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us, or TV Classroom, you can mail it. Mail it in a regular envelope to TV Classroom at 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
And we'll share them here on TV Classroom and we'll hang them up for everyone to see. Now, kindergartners, you did a wonderful job. That was kind of a long lesson, but you did such a nice job of using active listening, and I even heard some of you doing our fun little chant that Miss Mays taught us. So your affirmation for today, this is a positive thing that I want you to tell yourself as you go off to do your work today is, I can do all the things. I can do all the things. I can do the character, the setting, the beginning, middle, end. I can do my independent reading thinking about the character, the setting, the beginning, middle, end. You can. So practice saying that with me. I can do all the things. Excellent job today, kindergartners. Remember, tomorrow is Wednesday, so we have our special guest and art with Miss Teresa. So when you come back to TV Classroom, have your materials ready to go. So we'll see you back here tomorrow in our TV Classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.